Yeah, so good morning. My name is Jim Atkinson. I am the Director of Programs and Services here at ArtPride, New Jersey. I'm coming to you today from my home office in Haddon Township, New Jersey, which is the ancestral homeland of the Lenni Lenape people. We have a lot to cover, as I mentioned. There are some housekeeping I wanted to go over. If you have any questions at any point during this morning's presentation, either from Wilson, who'll be joining us in a moment, or from myself with some data we'll be sharing later in the webinar, feel free to drop those questions in the Q&A. Also, keep an eye on chat. If we have any specific links we want to share or anything we want to get out, we'll be using chat for that. Um, there is closed captioning available as well via the closed captioning tool at the bottom of your screen in Zoom. As I mentioned, we'll be joined in a moment from Wilson Shazer from Grapeseed Media, who did a wonderful job of leading what I thought was like a graduate level class for 4 hours back in May at the New Brunswick Performing Arts Center. But even with that 4 hours, there were things we didn't quite get to. So he has graciously agreed to come back and sort of finish what we never got to get to cover back in May this morning. That'll be probably about a half an hour, 40 minutes or so. And then I'll be sharing some information with you all about results from what we've been doing with over the past year with the updated Discover Jersey Arts brand, the NewJerseyArts.com website. We also have some exciting news to share with you around some public value data that we've been working on at ArtPride, as well as what's going on with our Audience Insights Manager AIM program and some exciting changes coming to that as well. So, as I said, a lot to cover, but without further ado, I am going to go ahead and hand this off to Wilson Shazer from Grapeseed Media. Good morning, Wilson.
Good morning. Thanks, Jim. Yeah, good to see some familiar faces and names from that first session that we did back in May. There was a lot covered in that session. We didn't get to everything. So today, really excited and happy to be here to go over a topic that we touched on briefly, but there's really so much to say about it, and is really, I think, one of the most pertinent and important topics for arts organizations when it comes to their data and when it comes to marketing. So today we're going to delve a little bit more deeply into first-party data and how we can parlay that into first-rate marketing. So as Jim said, I am Wilson Shazer. I'm the Senior Director of Client Services at Grapeseed Media. And the agenda today, I'll tell you just really quickly about Grapeseed Media a little bit. We'll delve into what is first-party data. We will delve into the online privacy landscape, really just kind of highlighting some of the things that don't want to call them roadblocks, but maybe hurdles that have been put in place in the online landscape that really makes first-party data so important to arts organizations. And then we'll talk about some data segmentation best practices that we advise our clients on that we see arts organizations leveraging to great effect. And then we'll talk about channel activation within digital marketing. So when you have all this first-party data and you've segmented it, how can that be activated across the digital advertising and marketing landscape? So just a little bit about Grapeseed Media. Grapeseed Media was founded back in 2013, specifically as a digital marketing partner for nonprofit and arts and entertainment organizations. Our CEO, Bill Updegraff, came from the arts world. He was a marketing director at various theater and performing arts organizations in the New York City area. And he had some frustrations. He felt that arts were not really they felt that the arts were kind of an underserved area when it came to digital marketing, and that arts organizations, because they tend to be smaller, kind of scrappier teams, have limited resources in terms of time, and then also, of course, budget constraints and things like that, that arts organizations weren't given the same opportunity to kind of unlock this world of digital media, which, in 2013, 2014, 2015 was really growing and exploding. So that's a core mission that we retain at Grapeseed, is really to work very closely with arts organizations to kind of navigate this complex world of digital advertising and just provide support and act as an extension of arts marketing teams in order to just kind of level up what you're doing on the digital side. So getting into what is first-party data, I'm sure that this is a term that everyone is at least loosely familiar with. I'm sure it's a term that gets thrown around in marketing meetings and things like that. But just want to kind of level set the stage for everything that we're going to be talking about here. And as much as I hate just putting text on a slide and putting a definition on a slide, I do think that this is a great just definition of first party data, and it is really clear, and I think bears just a kind of a word for word recitation. So first party data is the information that an organization collects directly from its audience through their interactions with your brand. It's owned by you and it's obtained with consent, which makes it the most accurate, privacy compliant, and valuable type of data for digital marketing. Truly, this first party data, it can be used in many different ways, which we'll get into, but it really is the gold standard when it comes to the data that's available to you to activate in the digital marketing world. So how is first party data collected? In today's world, it's typically collected mostly via online sources, right? So any kind of ticket subscription sales that are coming in through your ticketing instance, email and SMS signups. So if somebody is giving you their email address in any capacity or is giving you their phone number, information to text them, all of that is a first party data source. Donations that are coming in through your website, any kind of digital surveys or feedback forms that you might be sending to people after performances where they're entering their information. Again, all of that can be collected, can all be collated, can all be used as first party data. And then one source that many people don't think of as first party data, but it is indeed a piece of first party data, is website activity and social engagement. So if somebody visits your website, you are able to capture them as a user, right? You're not capturing their email, you're not capturing their name, their address, anything like that, but you are capturing their digital footprint. And with consent structures that are in place, you can then use that data to target them. And the same goes for social engagement. If somebody is liking a post, right, you're able to track them in social. Certainly, if somebody is liking or following any of your social media pages, that too is a form of first party data. It's not quite as rich and robust as collecting, again, an email address, consumer information via purchase, but all of those different data sources as well can be leveraged as first party data. And then, of course, there are offline sources as well. So sales that are coming in directly via the box office, phone sales, somebody calls, buys over the phone, collecting that data when you have that conversation, in-person events. So if you are putting on any kind of event or sponsoring something within the community, maybe you have a table or a tent at some kind of event and people come through, you can ask them to sign up for a mailing list, sign up to get emails or direct mail for, promotions that you have, your season direct mail piece that you send out, things like that. And then something that's a little bit more technical, but RFID and BLE beacons, which are able to collect that data via mobile devices when people are on site at your location, is another way to kind of collect and bring in some of that data.
I have a quick question, Wilson. Someone's asking if Tessatura would be considered their box office system.
Yes, yeah, sorry. So Tessatura is just an example. If you're not on Tessatura, obviously you're still able to collect all of this data. But yes, that would be essentially the same. Or, for the offline sources, specifically with box office, that would speak more to, obviously, anything that comes in online is kind of coming through your digital box office, right? Whatever your ticketing platform is. But when somebody comes in person and, the day of the show for walk-ups or whatever it is, and they purchase a ticket, that again is another opportunity to collect that data from them. So what information should I collect? For digital advertising, there's really the two big pieces that we need and that we want. One is an email address, and the other is a mobile phone number. So email address, this data can be collected. It can then be processed in a privacy compliant way. And we can match to that email address when you have it, and you can find that person online via them using that email address to log into any number of sites that they might be logging into. Basically, when we see somebody with that email address logging in, that's kind of a piece of declared data. They're confirming that this is them with that email address. We can match to them, and we can then reach them online. And mobile phone is important because obviously so much of the way that people are consuming information these days is via their mobile phone. It's not just on their home computer or their laptop. So by having a mobile phone number, we can match to that phone number, that mobile device ID, and we can deliver to them in mobile as well. Um, the more data that you collect, the better. And actually, it does help us to match more directly to people. Specifically, some of this demographic information can be helpful as well. So a name, a first and a last name, and a zip code or city are very important pieces of data as well, and actually just makes our ability to match to that person online more robust and more precise. But then also collecting things like age or their birth date, collecting things like their language preference, right? This is valuable information that you can then segment, and you can utilize that to market to people more specifically and more effectively. So, if you have programming that might appeal to a younger age demographic, right, you can use that data. If you have a performance that it speaks to his Spanish speaking audiences or something like that, that language preference can be really powerful in helping to segment that audience and deliver them the right message. And then transactional data as well. And a lot of this can be captured just on the back end within your ticketing platform. So understanding if this person is new to file or existing, because that again could influence how we are speaking to them on an ongoing basis, speaking to them in the future. Are they a member, or are they a single ticket buyer? What is the category or the genre of the programming that they purchased for? Because again, you can segment based on that. And then the order value, right? Are they buying, on the more expensive side of the ticket value? Are they, maybe kind of a more economic buyer, right? Where they're going to respond to things like promotions or discounts really favorably. So all of this is information that is very valuable to collect. But when it comes to the world of digital advertising and activation, it's the email address and mobile phone number that we really consult and advise our arts partners to collect. Okay, so going to talk a little bit about the online privacy landscape, because the reality of what the landscape looks like is really what is driving first party data as being such a valuable piece of the marketing arsenal. So data privacy and regulations. I'm sure at this point everyone is very familiar with GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. Began in the UK and in the EU, and it's just sort of become more of the standard really across the world, and specifically in the United States when it comes to the collection, the storage, and use of data. So GDPR was really the first time where consumers were given more control over their online footprint and their online data. So it requires specific consent for data collection. And, it's really great to see. I think a lot of arts organizations were actually kind of in the forefront of this. They were kind of ahead of the curve when it came to introducing this GDPR framework, when speaking to the people that were interacting with them online. So I see on websites all the time for arts organizations, that little pop up that comes up and says, are we allowed to track you, right? So that's that consent driven data collection. People can of course opt out, but also the storage and the use of that data. So consumers can actually request to get their data, to understand who's tracking them, where their data is being used, and then they can actually have control over the usage of it. So you can request your data to be deleted. So people can just take a little bit more ownership around the way that their online footprint is being used. And Shortly, kind of on the heels of GDPR, came the CCPA, the California Consumer Privacy Act, and then that was even updated as recently as 2023. Kind of maintains the same framework as GDPR when it comes to collection, storage, and use. But then there are actually even more strict guidelines around using location, race, and religion in terms of targeting someone. And then this has, of course, now proliferated kind of across the United States with this sort of GDPR light model that is very similar to GDPR, particularly on the consent front, getting that consent to target people and to track people. It's a little bit less robust than what they have in Europe, but still, again, follows the same kind of path. And this is currently in more than a dozen states and growing. So it's becoming more and more common. I do think that organizations are just being more proactive with it, even if they're in a state that doesn't require this kind of GDPR framework. They're just adopting it because it is valued by consumers. Consumers like to understand that they are working within a kind of consent framework when it comes to marketing. And then, of course, they like the ability to have a little bit more control ultimately over how their data is being used. And in addition to that, there are kind of some major platform and browser changes and updates that have been implemented in the landscape. So third-party cookie deprecation. So third-party cookies have really been, since really the dawn of digital advertising, have been the way to track people. And basically, it's just a piece of kind of code that gets dropped on to someone's browser when they visit a particular website or engage with a particular piece of content. And then that all of that activity, it kind of stays within their history. And then we're able to understand where people have visited, what kind of activity they've taken place in, right? Have they purchased something? But third-party cookies are starting to really be phased out. Google Chrome, so Google's been threatening to deprecate third-party cookies for a very long time. They kind of keep kicking the can down the road. We think it's coming every quarter, and then they tell us that they're pushing it off. So maybe we will see third-party cookie deprecation coming from Google Chrome this year, maybe next year, maybe not ever. But it is still something to be aware of, and obviously a huge company like Google that has a footprint in so many places online. Even their consideration of deprecating third-party cookies really speaks to the fact that there are more changes that are likely coming, and that organizations are thinking more intently about the data that's being collected and how it's being used. Safari and Firefox have blocked and continue to block third-party cookies by default. So people actually need to opt in on those browsers in order to be tracked via cookies. Obviously, Safari and Firefox, that's roughly about 50% of the browsing population. Safari is the browser of choice for most people that are using Apple devices, particularly iPhones. So within those environments, we're not even able to use third-party cookies at all in order to track people and to target people. So the impact here is pretty, important. It has implications for audience building, right? People come to the website. Can you track that audience? Can you build that audience? Can you maintain that audience? Site retargeting. If we're not able to track via third-party cookies, very difficult to retarget to people because we can't say for sure that they've been to your website. And then frequency capping and reporting. Frequency capping just refers to how many ads somebody is receiving from your organization online. Obviously, if we're not able to track them, it's very difficult to understand when we've served an ad to them and how many times we've served it to them. So it makes it difficult for us to really understand how often are we reaching people. And then, of course, reporting. If we can't track people's activity, when they do come back and they make a purchase, it's difficult for us to tie any kind of digital marketing activity directly to that purchase behavior or that action. And then Apple iOS app tracking transparency. This is, again, a permission-based tracking via Apple. I'm sure that everyone has seen this this disclaimer pop up when you download a new app, or maybe when you go into an app that you haven't been in for a long time, where you are giving permission for that app to track you. And without that permission, again, we're not able to track as effectively in the mobile environment. And there are very, very low opt-in rates for this. It's somewhere between probably 10 and 20% of people are opting into it. And that, of course, leads upwards of 80% of people who we're not able to track because they're not allowing that permission. And this has impact across browsing within just browsing online via a browser, but it also has implications for other apps like Meta, YouTube. Pretty much every app that you're using in iOS is going to ask you whether or not this app and this platform can track you. And if you're not opted into that on those devices, then across these really popular apps, you don't have the ability to have that tracking. So while these changes have come in and while they do have major implications for digital marketing, the power of first party data allows us to solve most of these challenges. So in the decline of third party cookies, that really is not a consideration for first party data because this is a direct data relationship. This is email that you have. This is purchase history. It's unaffected. It's data that you own. Platform restrictions on tracking. This is logged in user data, right? So people are using their emails. This is deterministic, more deterministic data that we can really understand who this user is. And they can be uploaded to these digital marketing platforms, again, via secure APIs, right? So there's no privacy implications. It's anonymous. Everything has been done in a privacy compliant way. Consent requirements. With first party data, you control how and when consent is gathered. So via ticket sales, forms, email signups, of course, having the consent structure on your website when people come and visit, again, is a great way. And we are considering, again, site visitation to ultimately be a form of first party data. And then accuracy and trust. This is a big one for first party data. There is so many different data sources out there that we are able to leverage in digital advertising, but a lot of it is probabilistic. They're using sort of different signals to build these audiences based on browsing and buying behavior, but it is not directly from the patron. So first party data is, kind of a one-to-one match, and it reduces the reliance on any kind of inferred or modeling where, again, based on someone's activity, we assume, we think, we have a really good hunch that they are within this kind of this audience group that we want to target. But first party data bypasses that guessing game and connects you directly to the people who you have that information from. Okay, so getting into some segmentation best practices. It's of course great to just collect this data generally and to be able to use it generally, but data segmentation is really where you're going to be able to put in place strategies that are going to make marketing and outreach much more effective. So segmenting by behavior, not just demographics, right? We talked about that demographic information, age, zip code, things like that, gives you that surface level information. But segmenting by behavior is going to give you a much better sense of interest and intent that it's going to help lead to higher sales and engagement. So just some examples of how to apply this and example execution. A recent ticket buyer, you can target them with "you may also like" campaigns, right? So somebody has already purchased, they've shown that they like the programming that you have on, that they're interested in coming, to your organization. So reaching out directly to them after that, after they've been primed with that purchase, and saying, "Hey, you bought for this particular performance. We have all this other stuff that's going on, or we have something coming up that is similar that you might also like." You can also re-engage lapsed patrons who haven't attended an event in, say, 12 plus months. So obviously, folks who have visited in the past, they know your brand, they're comfortable purchasing from you, but it just could be that for whatever reason, they haven't seen you out there, they haven't kept up with what your organization has going on. So segmenting based on that buying behavior and then targeting those people with specific messages, maybe a promotion to get them back in the door, can be really effective. Upselling to high frequency attendees with season subscriptions. So if you're seeing somebody who has bought for 2, 3 performances throughout the year, and they might be interested in a subscription to help them save, to help them maybe bundle particular performances that they're interested in, that can be really important and really effective. And then kind of on the other side, using a list of subscribers as a suppression list in single ticket campaigns. So if somebody purchases a subscription package, very likely that we don't need or even want to be targeting them with any kind of campaigns around single tickets. So in the same way that we can use these lists for targeting, we can use them for suppression as well so that people on that list are not receiving digital advertising going forward. And then the example execution, segmenting patrons who bought tickets for classical music, targeting them with upcoming chamber music events rather than just promoting maybe general branding or promoting all genres to them. This RFM framework is really effective and really important. So recency, frequency, monetary. This is a proven framework. It helps you identify your most valuable audience segments. Recency, how recently they purchased. Is this someone that just purchased last week? Is it somebody who purchased 2 years ago? How often they purchase. Again, did this person just purchase one time over the course of the last year or 2 years? Or are they purchasing multiple times throughout the year? And then monetary, how much do they spend? So you want to prioritize these high RFM patrons for things like early access or VIP campaigns, offer loyalty incentives to help kind of move people up into that higher RFM level. And then re-engaging low RFM segments with special offers or even surveys to understand why is this person a low RFM patron. So an example execution here, identify the top spenders who attend 4+ shows per year, target them with a personalized donor campaign. This is somebody who has shown great interest in the organization, has shown loyalty. They're very likely to respond positively to outreach for a campaign that is asking for donations or some kind of a sponsorship. And then lookalike modeling. I'm sure that lookalike modeling is familiar to people who have worked in Meta, worked in Facebook, right? This is the idea that you can take this first party data and you can actually use the information that we have about people on the list to go out and find other people who have not engaged with your organization, who have not purchased, who have not visited your website, who don't like your Facebook page. And you can go out and find people who look like those people who have. So this is a great way to grow new audiences. You can cast a wider net. So using single ticket buyers from the last 1 to 3 years for events with broad appeal or for a branding campaign or for a season announcement. You can consider RFM, that recency, frequency, monetary framework when segmenting for more targeted campaigns. And then success can be limited with lookalike modeling for subscriptions or donations because these are not people who have purchased from you. These are new people. You're going out and just trying to find more people who look like your core patron base. So segmenting patrons from the last 1 to 3 years who have bought tickets for your holiday performance at an average order of $50. And you can use this list to create lookalike audiences in programmatic and social media campaigns. Of course, something like holiday has that broader appeal. So reaching out to those new audiences is particularly effective in instances like that. Okay, so again, you have all this data, you have segmented it. That's all wonderful. How can this data be utilized? And I mentioned that it can be utilized in social campaigns. Obviously, this kind of segmentation can be utilized in email marketing. It can even be utilized in direct mail offline. But outside of those things, there are programmatic channels that kind of address the larger advertising ecosystems, and all of this first party data can be activated there as well. And it can be utilized at every stage of the funnel, as we've seen in the previous slides, right? At the very top of the funnel, we can create lookalike audiences. We can target directly lapsed ticket buyers. In the consideration phase, we can segment for single ticket buyers or segment by behavior or demographics to reach ticket buyers that you have in your system who already are familiar with your brand are already likely to purchase again from you. And then down at the very bottom of the funnel, we have the website retargeting. We have people who have purchased recently. So those are people, again, who are kind of lower down in the funnel. They're ready to buy, they're ready to engage. And this is how first party data can filter and be effective at every stage of the funnel. Okay, so just going to get into some examples of the ways and the channels that we execute on for our arts partners using first party data. Something that I'm sure many of you are familiar with: programmatic banners. These are static or animated ads. They show up on websites and apps as people browse. Within programmatic, we have access to about 98% of sites online. It really is the most common way for publishers to monetize their website. So it's very ubiquitous, and it is very easy to target people with these programmatic banners. And it's also a very cost-effective way to drive reach and frequency. Of course, people are spending a ton of time browsing on different websites on their various devices. So we can reach them on all those devices, and we can reach them really on any site where they might be browsing. So whether it's, the theater section of the New York Times, or whether it's their favorite blog.
So, the quick question, Wilson. This is actually just from me. So, for the
Yeah.
organizations that subscribe to our Audience Insights Manager program, we're
Mhm.
able to provide back to them a fairly significant amount of demographic and psychographic behavior, buying profiles, buying behaviors, crossover reporting on their patrons. So, that data could be applied to this as well, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, it certainly can. And those types of audience insights as well, we're talking about owned first party data, but the other side of that is all of the data that is available out there that you don't own, but that can be used in order to power these campaigns. And that's called third party data. So within the platforms that we utilize, we have thousands and thousands of audience segments that allow us to target people very specifically. So if you're providing all of that, demographic, psychographic data, right, and people are learning that, oh, it's very interesting that, for whatever reason, people who buy from our organization are really interested in sports. It's something that might not be as obvious to you on the surface. That insight can then be used in working with an organization like Grapeseed to say, here are kind of some new audiences that we want to test. Here are some segments that kind of fall outside of the core, theater patrons or performing arts interested people, but something that we can then utilize to test that audience and see if it drives sales on the digital side.
Thanks. Thanks for clearing that up. Yeah.
Yeah. Social extension everywhere. This is a channel that we love to activate for our arts partners, because what it allows you to do is just sort of connect and create synergies around what you're doing in social media and what you're doing off of social media. So this is just where we take a social media post and we reconfigure it into one of those programmatic banners. So it takes on the look and the feel of your social post. It even has kind of like a likes and a comments area of the post. And it can actually drive directly back to your social page, or it can drive to your website. So again, people are, usually going to be reached. The same person is going to be reached in social by you, and they're going to be reached outside of social. So this is again a way just to kind of connect that messaging. They'll recognize the branding, they'll recognize what they've seen in social, and it does drive more attention and engagement. So we tend to see these social extension everywhere ads actually driving more clicks, driving more site visitation than just a standard programmatic banner ad. Native advertising. This is essentially a form of display advertising, but what it does is it takes on the look and feel of the website where it's being delivered. So it offers just kind of this natural, non-intrusive user experience. It can be static images, it can be video ads. You've probably seen these when you've been browsing. They're very prominent, and they're very effective in mobile. So you can see, right, you're in the New York Times, you're browsing kind of through their tiles of news stories, And in there is an ad, but it looks like a piece of news content being delivered within the native experience of that site. And there are a lot of studies out there that prove that not only do consumers uh, prefer these types of ads to just standard display banners, but they do drive more attention, they drive more engagement, more clicks, and they drive more brand recall. So it's a great way to supplement what you might be doing in display with some creative that's a little bit richer. There's a little bit more copy, there's a little bit more information that you can provide to an audience. Video, again, this data can be used to power any video campaigns that you have. So these are the videos that you see on websites before, during, or after video content. You go to the New York Times and you want to watch a news story. Before that news story, a video will play. And again, all of that can be powered by that first party data. In-stream video, really effective in creating some sight, sound, and motion, breaking out of just kind of the static image world, providing more information to people in one sitting than you could with a banner ad. So it's very effective at the top of the funnel. It's very effective for awareness, very effective in just giving audiences an understanding of what an experience with your organization might look like, what a performance might look like, things like that. And a big one that I know a lot of organizations are not only dipping their toes into, but really putting a lot of resources behind is being able to utilize any video content that you're putting together in the ecosystem of connected TV and OTT. So just to clarify terms a little bit, connected TV traditionally has meant long or the connected television device that somebody might have in their living room or their bedroom, and ott is just accessing that same content that they're streaming on those devices, but on their non-television devices, so their iPad, their computer, their mobile phone. So you can deliver your ads directly into content in Hulu, Roku, Peacock, many, many more. About 90% of all streaming ad delivery is now delivered programmatically. So within programmatic, we have tons and tons of access to streaming platforms and to streaming content, and these are non-skippable. In many cases, non-clickable as well, but they are non-skippable inventory. So they have completion rates of nearly 100%. So very similar to linear TV, right? This again is a great way to deliver top of funnel awareness to people. And what's amazing about connected TV and really digital in general is we can connect devices together. So if we deliver a top of funnel awareness ad to somebody on their connected TV device, we can then understand all of the other devices that are connected within that household. And then we can start delivering them ads on those other devices. So using that first party data, right, you activate that, you find people in one environment, we deliver directly to somebody in one environment, but then we can proliferate really across all of these different environments, and we can track people across all of those devices to understand that, yeah, we delivered a CTV ad to somebody 2 weeks ago. Then we connected to their laptop and we started delivering them video ads or display ads. Then they moved to their mobile phone and we delivered an ad to them there. And then they purchased. And we can still track that is that same user from the CRM list that we activated that moved across all those different devices and all of that different content and went on to make a purchase. Similarly, streaming audio, more people are listening to things like Pandora and Spotify, iHeartRadio. Really, any digital streaming radio is something that we can activate CTV, or I'm sorry, activate first party data in and reach people in those environments as well. So, as with most more traditional marketing channels, fewer and fewer people are listening to terrestrial radio. They're now accessing that same type of content, or they're listening to podcasts, news stations, sports stations via their devices and via these streaming platforms. So being able to reach them there is extremely powerful, extremely important. And again, you can deliver things like companion banners that do allow, even while a person is listening, allowing you to deliver a message directly to them that they can click, and then they can go and visit your website. So tracking all of this, right? That's really important. We need to understand the attribution, and we need to understand channel performance. So within digital, you can really clearly and accurately track the performance of these first party data audiences in these campaigns. So you can track things like reach, right? How many impressions are being delivered to a particular first party audience list? How many people have we reached on that list? How often are we reaching them? How many ads have they been delivered? So you can start to kind of calibrate and understand what the optimal reach and frequency are in order to drive, the most revenue from a campaign. Do we need to deliver 5 ads to people over the course of 2 weeks, or do we need to deliver 20 ads to people over the course of 2 weeks in order to really see them purchase? And just from what we've seen generally, typically the arts patron experiences usually about 2 weeks, and usually about 20 plus ads before they go on to make a purchase. And then you can of course track engagement directly against these first party audiences. So within this audience, how many clicks have we seen? How many video views? Are they completing the videos, or are they skipping them? Are they moving away? How many site visits are coming directly from this first party data list? So really understanding, is the audience that we've segmented for and that we're delivering a particular message to, are they responding in the way that we would hope, given this very sort of specific focus that we're putting on them, and the specific messaging we're putting in front of them? And then, of course, conversions and revenue. So we can track these sales directly back to first party data audiences. Um, and again, right, we're not relying on third party cookies. If somebody is engaging with you, but they're only engaging with you on Safari, we're not able to track them in that way. But if we have that first party data list and we target somebody based on their email, and they come back and they purchase and they enter in that email, we can match those two back together. So we are able to bypass some of those hurdles that are put in front of us when it comes to tracking digitally, by using the first party data that we have, not only to target, but to ultimately attribute and track. And all of this can be done across all of these channels that we talked about. So just to put a bow on everything, first party data does lead to first rate marketing. It's consent given, it's data that you own. It helps mitigate the challenges presented by this constantly evolving privacy landscape, and it really is constantly evolving. New things are happening every day. New hurdles are being put in place, but also new opportunities are coming. There are a lot of companies that are really heavily investing in how do we make the most of our marketing given these things that are put in our way? What are other things that we can do to make sure that we're not solely relying on just third party cookies and data tracking in that way? Segmenting this data is critical for success. It is great from a very baseline measure to collect this data and to utilize it, whether it's e-blasts, whether it's direct mail, whether it's using it in these channels. But where you're really going to see the greatest effect is when you are segmenting for a specific audience, and then also delivering a specific message to that specific audience. And first party data can be activated throughout the marketing funnel, right? It's not just a lower funnel thing. It's not just engaging with people who have already purchased from your organization. It can be used at the very top of the funnel. It can be used at the very bottom of the funnel. And being able to have tools at your disposal, to have access to channels that allow you to utilize it at every stage of the funnel, and use the corresponding channels that are best within the each area of that funnel, is really important. So thank you so much. I'm happy to take any additional questions. Um, we're here to help at Grapeseed. Again, we work with many arts organizations. We work with several organizations that are part of ArtPride New Jersey and Jersey Arts. So if you have any other questions for me, or you just want to get in touch, my email is there, my direct email. You can feel free to reach out to me. Additionally, we do just have kind of a general alias, which is hello@Grapeseed Media. But certainly would love to connect with anyone and everyone who has any questions or who wants to chat with our team.
Hey, Wilson, we do have one last question that came through, and it's asking. Actually, we have another one coming through as well. Have you been using the new Google Ads Performance Max platform, and has it performed better than regular Google Ads?
Yeah, so yes, we definitely have experience with PMax. You know what PMax is great for is it can help just kind of consolidate all of these different Google products that they have, right? So rather than having to work distinctly with each one and kind of set everything up, you can set everything up within PMax and it proliferates across all the Google products. So yeah, I would say in general it does perform better than just standard Google Display Network ads. But it's important to note that Google Display Network really only allows you to kind of be in one area of the universe. So programmatic is not Google Display Network is not programmatic. Google has actually its own programmatic tech that is called Google DV360, and what that allows you to do is not only target kind of the limited audiences that are available to you within GDN, but it allows you to target a much bigger universe of Google data and Google audiences. It allows you to bid and buy more effectively on Google products like YouTube. So yes, I think PMax is great. It's great for performance. I think it's really good for kind of bottom of the funnel, but it does limit you a little bit in reaching and finding new audiences and delivering in other places. But if I was to say, should I be doing PMax or should I just be doing standard Google Display Network ads? I think PMax is the way to go for sure.
Great, thank you. And we have another question. Um, Basically, they're stating that this sounds great for beautifully curated marketing campaigns, but also potentially expensive for smaller organizations. So, for an organization with a smaller budget, is there one channel that you would recommend targeting first?
Oh, that's a tough one. Um, I think the first thing to note is that from just a targeting standpoint and from a buying standpoint, this first party data targeting is actually probably the most efficient way that you can do it, right? So if you have limited budgets, if you have limited resources, I think doing anything and everything that you can to focus as much as possible on first party data is going to give you the most bang for your buck and the most opportunity for growth. When it comes to which channels to utilize, as a marketer, I always have to say, an omni-channel approach is the best. Being able to reach people with different creative in different ways across different devices and content is always going to drive the best results. But for me, I think video is an extremely powerful asset for arts organizations. It can be used pretty cost effectively at different stages of the funnel. It's great for awareness, but also it's great for consideration. Again, for a specific performance, it allows you to show people what that performance is going to look like, what the experience is going to look like. You can retarget with video at the bottom of the funnel. So somebody visits your site and they move away, you can retarget to them with that ad. I think just given the the visual and the sonic nature of the arts world and the product and that you're putting in front of people, video is one of the most effective things that you can do. Um, Display video when organizations come to us and they say, hey, we really want to do this, we have limited budget, what do you recommend? Typically a campaign that is utilizing display and video is going to be the most cost effective. It's going to allow you to get the most impressions and the most engagement for your budget, and it's also going to allow you just a versatility to reach a lot of different people in a lot of different ways.
And for a sense of scale, so folks know what is a small like for an organization coming to somebody like Grapeseed, whether it's you or somebody else, what is considered a small budget that you could work with and potentially see impact from? Like whether something
Yeah, and
smaller done.
yeah, and that's a difficult question to answer too. I mean, we definitely take it on kind of a case by case basis, right? So we obviously want to empower organizations to be effective with their marketing, but there is a level where your marketing dollars may not be best spent in channels like this. So sometimes organizations that we work with will say, hey, I have an extra $500 that I want to put towards this particular campaign. That budget is not really going to be effective in programmatic. Those dollars are going to be best spent, in something like Meta, social media, really kind of like boosting posts, getting out in front of some of your most engaged audiences and getting them to purchase. Um, We, over the years, as you can imagine, we have run thousands of arts campaigns, single ticket, subscriber, awareness based. And we have a little bit of a formula that we use as a baseline, but that's not to say that this is written in stone. And that is usually about $5,000 over the course of a month, targeting these channels. That allows you to do things like display, video, native. And then if you want to get into things like connected TV or audio, which are just more expensive channels to be in. You have to pay more to reach audiences in those environments. With additional budget, we can layer on some of those, but kind of a baseline that we've seen really be effective in terms of reaching a wide enough audience and reaching them with enough impressions, right? Enough reaching them with enough ads over the course of a long enough period of time in order to drive really positive results. We have kind of started recommending $5,000 or so as a baseline, but we of course are able to work with partners at budget levels that are lower than that, particularly when we're doing things like season planning. We really love to dig in, roll up our sleeves, and do long-term season planning with our partners because it allows us to find opportunities to be more effective with that budget rather than just siloing campaigns here and there. We can think about how we can engage people throughout the course of the season, different seasonality approaches, different messaging, how we want to align the creative, and just allows us to be more strategic. And in the context of that, again, we can be a little bit more efficient in some cases with the budget. So particularly when organizations are doing that long-term planning with us that allows us to be really smart and strategic, we don't necessarily hold hard and fast to yeah, we think $5,000 over the course of the month is what you need to do because so much of it snowballs and builds on itself
Sure.
when you're doing that season planning.
Sure. No, but I think that helps give folks a sense of scale to know, based on the wide variety of budgets of the organizations in the room, just an idea of where to start.
Yeah,
So again,
absolutely.
thank you very much. I see you put your email here. We will be sharing Wilson's slide deck for all the attendees today. So if you were not feverishly taking notes, I guess we should have said that at the top. You don't need to feverishly be taking notes. The video will be posted on our YouTube channel, and of course, we'll be sharing that slide deck. So we do have a lot of other material to cover today, but I definitely want to thank you again for sharing this enormous wealth of experience and expertise with our friends here in the room.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thanks for everyone for joining.
Thanks, Wilson.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so as I mentioned, it is a pretty packed agenda. We do have a lot more to get through today, and we're just going to keep this ball rolling. Switch gears. So as I mentioned, there's been a lot happening over the past year and change at ArtPride around Discover Jersey Arts. This is the program's 25th anniversary year, which is kind of crazy to think about. And it's a really important milestone for any program, but especially a program like Discover Jersey Arts. These certainly pop up around the country. We are not the first community to embark on a branding campaign like this, but 25 years is a lot of staying power for one. So we're really proud of it, and just wanted to thank all the folks who have helped guide us over the years. And it has adapted a lot. It has changed. When Discover Jersey Arts first launched, it was a celebrity endorsement campaign where we had spots with Meryl Streep and Susan Sarandon, and ads with BB Newirth and Avery Brooks and John and Bucky Pizzarelli and Frank Sinatra Jr. and so on. It then morphed into a lot of different things over the years. We used to do a lot of cooperative advertising. We did a lot of crazy stuff like our fashion show and our People's Choice Awards, and it just continues to change and evolve. And that's one of the reasons why it's still here. Last year, about a little over a year ago, in August of 2024, we updated the brand because we wanted to say this is sort of a new evolution of Discover Jersey Arts. And we launched our new website, which is the new version of jerseyarts.com. And all of these materials are available to all the organizations that are part of the JAM network. So the JAM network, as a reminder, is any organization, either nonprofit or for-profit. So if you're a gallery, or what we often call the no-profit arts industry, you're running a small gallery, maybe you have a small music venue, you're still welcome in this field. So if you're an ArtPride member organization, you're part of the JAM network. If you're a direct grantee of the State Arts Council, who are our co-founders, who help co-found this program, Um, uh, and they also support it with a lot of generous funding. Obviously, all the grantees are also welcome in this network. And if you're a member of the New Jersey Theater Alliance, who we partner with quite a bit, you're also part of the JAM network. So there's no barrier. There's no organization that can't be part of JAM if you choose to. Because you may or may not be a Theater Alliance member. You may or may not be a direct grantee, but we certainly encourage you, regardless, to be a member organization of ArtPride. So with the launch of the new website in August 2024, in October of 2024, we initiated a new branding campaign. You got to be here, and this was geared toward the new focus of content on the website, and again the new brand design. And what we wanted to do, well, first we'll show you the commercial spot, the TV spot, which I hope you'd already seen, but for those of you who haven't.
Wait to see this.
I cannot wait.
We're here already? We just left the house.
Hey, I got the tickets.
Excellent.
Thank you. Wait. I have to post this.
So much of a vibe, right? What I tell you.
There's so much to see. So close to home. You just gotta be here. Discover Jersey Arts at jerseyarts.com.
So that video spot was certainly the core of the campaigns that we ran in the fall of 2024 and in the spring of 2025. So there are two separate ad placements. The results of that, the total impressions that we were able to secure were 5.4 million in digital combined. And that digital was a combination of CPC, CPM, TikTok, Meta, a lot of digital. We also had 2.5 impressions of the streaming video, which was that spot. That was a combination of Hulu Live, which Wilson touched on earlier, things like InStream and Effect TV to get that streaming in front of you, and YouTube. That was the combination, the mix that we did to achieve that mark. In the fall of 2024, we had over 200 transit placements. That was a combination of interior cards, 2-sheet posters, digital platform, transit kiosks, etc. And then we did direct mail campaigns in both the fall of 04 and spring of 05. The direct mail campaign in the fall of 04 targeted existing people who had Jersey Arts memberships, which was what it was referred to back in the legacy site, introducing them to the new site. We did a tremendous amount of data cleanup and reached out to those folks, say, hey, we have a new site. This is what you could do now with your new accounts. And then in the spring of 2005, we did a true acquisition campaign. We used the AIM database, and we primarily targeted New Jersey households that were residents of arts organizations in New York, Philadelphia, and Delaware. Since those markets also use the same data center platform, we were able to do data sharing across market, which we talk about a lot with AIM. But we also practice what we preach, and we did that as well. So we were really going after folks who live in New Jersey, but were consumers of the arts outside of New Jersey, to hit them with the Discover Jersey Arts, so much to do, so close to home kind of messaging. And again, the primary deliverable for this, where we sent people, was to the website. So we had a 61% increase in total page views in the fall of 04 compared to the months prior to when we launched the campaign. We similarly had a 69% increase in page views in the spring of 05, again, compared to the months prior to when the campaign ran. Because this is still such a new website, there's a lot of year-over-year data that some of that data we feel very comfortable comparing, and some of it we don't, since they're very different websites. So we were comparing those traffic increases to what it looked like prior to when the campaign ran to what it looked like when the campaign ran. We did definitely see some residual growth. So that 61% increase in the fall, we held. Traffic went up and held. And then we saw another bump in the spring. I will say in January, we're going to do another presentation where we share full calendar year data. So we'll be able to share more of those ebbs and flows. But we wanted to get back to you and give you sort of a sense of what kind of growth we're seeing. As far as the jerseyarts.com feature content, these are the articles, podcasts, video packages that we publish. We saw a 61% increase, and that is Q1, Q2, 04 versus 05. So that kind of content, we really do feel comfortable comparing year over year too, because we have similar kind of stats. And again, we saw a nice boost in that traffic during those times. The other deliverable we have are folks who create My Jersey Arts accounts. And between 2004 2005, we saw a net increase of 1,674 for a total number of 42,806. So as of August 2025, last month, there are 42,806 total My Jersey Arts account holders out there. Any questions at this point? I'll take a quick breath here regarding anything that I've been hitting on. Okay. So when we talk about the website, the content strategy that we adapted when we were building the site and that we've seen really good results from is shifting to the storytelling being the primary driver. So what we mean by that are, our feature stories, right? So we hire a team of creatives who work with us. We have Isaac Cerna Diaz on staff, who is the editor, but he works with a team of content contributors. And we publish one article a week, 2 podcast episodes, and 1 full video package per month on what's going on in the art scene in New Jersey. These are previews. They are not reviews. We don't do reviews. But these are previews about what's coming up. They go behind the scenes, talk to the artist, cover the story behind the story, if you will, and you try to bring to life what you all are doing out there in the field, and obviously then make it more engaging for the public to visit your events. This was the approach that we did after about 18 months of R&D. This was prior to the pandemic, where we had a team, a Jersey Arts marketers task force helping guide these decisions. We surveyed the field, we surveyed our users, we analyzed traffic patterns of the legacy website, and found this was the direction we wanted to take. Again, we're seeing the results of that seem to be holding true with the website, that while certainly we're going to have events and we're going to feature events on the website, and I'm not trying to minimize the importance of that content, the feature stories are where people are going. That's where most of the traffic is going. So shifting that seems to have been a very wise decision, and it kind of makes sense if you think about it. So we are certainly going to feature events and specifically feature the discounted events that are in e-savers. But there's lots of ways for folks to get event content. If that was the only thing the website was doing, it's content you can easily find elsewhere. Whereas the feature stories are our content that we create, it's custom. So it becomes the thing that brings people to this site. And then we see there then also, while I'm here, I'm seeing the featured events, I'm looking at the discounts, I'm visiting the directory, that kind of thing. So when we say featured events, they are curated. So this is curated content. That matches our seasonal messaging campaigns that we do throughout the year. Right now, we just launched the fall guide. Next month, we're going to be specifically talking about Halloween-themed events within the fall guide and talk about Halloween, anything that's in the zeitgeist like that. We've done similar campaigns throughout the year with Black History Month and Women's History Month, so on and so forth. So we're able to achieve that because we curate the content coming in. We're also able to make sure that a wide variety of organizations get featured. So, you're not going to see 10 events featured from the same organization. Yes, we can certainly feature multiple events from a single organization, absolutely, but we're not going to allow any one group to all of a sudden be the only thing you're seeing on jerseyarts.com. And we're going to make sure that content is diverse in many ways. So certainly culturally diverse, geographically diverse, covering different genres, and to be able to say that's the message we're putting out. We can only do that if we're curating it. However, there's a myth that we only publish events that are ticketed. That is not true. We publish and feature a lot of events that are free. So if you have a free event, it does not mean you can't get featured on jerseyarts.com. Doesn't mean that at all. So that I've heard that feedback a little bit. So I want to make sure we took this opportunity to clear that up, that both free and paid events can be featured and are often featured on the website. However, with discounts, with e-savers currently, that are the discounts that you post. So there's where you have control, right? You can put as many discounted events on the website as you want. You have to just decide how much of a discount you want to offer to the folks who have My Jersey Arts accounts. and then submit that along with a promo code that they can use for redemption. And that promo code can be done either online or by phone or both, depending on what works for you as an organization. So that is not curated content. Is there any questions about that differentiation about what's curated, what's not curated? Because this has come up a bit. I want to make sure we're kind of myth busting and clarifying why we're here. I'm either doing a great job of explaining this. Okay, awesome. So that's a difference between what's featured and what's in eSavers. eSavers can also be featured. They're not mutually exclusive. And then there's the directory. So every organization, which is like 600 and somewhere around 650, every organization in this network has a dedicated landing page in the directory, which is searchable by genre, by zip code, by keyword. So if somebody's sort of like, I just want to know what kind of organizations are around me, they could just go to the directory and find out what's near them based on what their preferences are like. And again, every organization has that dedicated landing page on the website. How you communicate with us is through the My ArtPride member portal. So this is at members.artpridenj.org, or it's in the upper right-hand corner of the artpridenj.org website. The difference between My Jersey Arts, that's a consumer brand, right? So if you have a My Jersey Arts account, that is your consumer relationship with ArtPride. The My ArtPride portal, your My ArtPride account, that's your industry, your business-to-business professional account you have with us. And you manage that content on the ArtPride website. So this is where you can submit an eSavers discount, where you can submit for consideration an event that you have coming up that you think would be great. Right now, it's the Winter Holidays Guide that we're gathering content for. Now, if you're going to submit a discount, there's a long, not long, but there's certainly a form you need to fill out. Ask you all the kind of questions you would expect to be answered. You know, the type of event, the name of the event, description of the event, where the event's taking place, what the discount is, what the redemption code is. We tried to streamline this from what we had done in the past, but it is still a form. There's a form for the Winter Holidays Guide, but it's really simple. You just drop a URL to your landing page of the event and attach an image. It is a much lower bar to do. We'll build that event based on your profile we get from your website. We understand we don't want you to spend a lot of time filling out multi-question forms when maybe only one of the 5 events you send us is going to be featured. So we try to lower that bar and make it easy. Whereas when you're submitting the event discount, because it goes directly from your profile right to the website, we don't curate it. That's why those forms are different. So again, I wanted to clarify that because we heard a little bit of confusion around it. Also really important, update your contacts. So we can't tell you about what we're doing at ArtPride if we don't know who at your organization should be getting emails from us. So there's a button there you can see where it says view all or add users. So that is where you can add users to your organizational account. And we can't stress enough that we really need you all to keep your profiles updated. So we are making sure that we're emailing the right people. I can't tell you how many phone calls we get or emails we get saying, I'm not getting your information. And we find out, well, you're not listed as a user at your organization. We can't send you emails if we don't know who you are. So if you're curious, you can log in and see who those folks are, and then add anybody you feel like should be there. Or you can also edit them if they're no longer there, because that's also good for us to know too. That really helps us keep our database clean. So in addition to everything we're doing with Discover Jersey Arts, that's certainly not all we do at ArtPride. That's not all we do in programs and services. We also talk a lot about the public value of the arts, and we're introducing a new brand. It's Jersey Arts Impact will be the new public value brand. This is a brand that sort of is replacing the Keep Jersey Arts Alive brand that we had developed during the pandemic. This is the new messaging around it. So this will debut in a couple weeks. It's scheduled to launch on October 1. And with that, we will also be updating the public value dashboard. So this is the area of ArtPride's website. Again, it hasn't been updated yet because it's scheduled to update October 1. You're getting a sneak peek. This is where we talk about the public value of the arts, what the arts mean to communities. So we're talking about the number of jobs, which is a head count of the full-time, part-time, and seasonal employment that the arts support. We talk about economic impact. So this is not only the dollars that the nonprofit arts and cultural sector contributes, but also what their audiences contribute, which is a really important talking point when we talk about the value of the arts and why and funding for the arts are so important. And we also talks about live attendance. So this is what the attendance of the arts in New Jersey look like. And this is all available at artpridenj.org/public value. Again, right now you'll see the data that came out about 2 years ago, and we're updating that next month. Some of the key takeaways of the data that you'll see is attendance. So you can look at here, and this is really helps us tell the story. In FY 2019, which was pre-pandemic, audiences in New Jersey were about 8.3 million. In the very early days in FY 22, so this is like the early days of reopening, you saw that number dropped all the way down to roughly 5.6 million. That's not shocking, right? These were the early days of reopening. Some organizations were opening very limited capacity. Some were doing limited seating. So seeing that number drop, not a surprise stat. What's interesting is 2 years out from that, this is based on FY24 data, which is the most recent data that's available. That number is rebounded, but to 6.6 million. So we are certainly not back to pre-pandemic levels. I'm sure a lot of you, this is not shocking. You may be feeling this at your box offices and your venues, but this is what we're seeing. This is the health of the industry as a whole. Interestingly, the economic impact figures look different, right? So in FY19, the total economic impact of the arts in New Jersey was roughly $662 million. That had dropped down to $532 million, which looks sort of like the drop when you looked at attendance, although not as significant of a drop. And it's rebounded even stronger than what the 662 million means. So what we see in this is we see what inflation looks like, right? Everything costs more. So every dollar that's invested, there's more dollars it takes to attend an arts event. So the economic impact numbers go up. They don't exactly mirror attendance. So this is inflationary pressures here. What we also see, though, that is really jarring is jobs, right? So the arts industry supported approximately 22,000 jobs pre-pandemic. That number dropped like a rock during the pandemic. Obviously dropped all the way down to 9,500, almost 9,600 jobs. But again, while we've seen a rebound, we're at roughly 13,000 jobs. We are still operating well below the capacity we had as an industry pre-pandemic. So that is part of the story that we want to tell. The other interesting thing that we looked at was Arts Council funding. So in FY24, that was $30,545,400 went out in grants. And I love myth busting. I love when data does myth busting. So I saw some myth busting here that I thought was worth sharing. One is that certainly the population in New Jersey is weighted heavier in North Jersey. That's not shocking, right? You see the bluish purple bar represents the percentage of New Jersey's population that lives in the northern New Jersey counties. And you can see that the funding there closely resembles that, 43%, very close. Population in South Jersey is 27%. Population in Central Jersey is 32%. So is it a myth that more people live in North Jersey and other regions of the state? No. But I will say it's not as dramatic as what the perception often is, right? The state's population isn't as dramatically split as folks may believe. And I think that's just really interesting to look at. The other myth that's out there, specifically in South Jersey, is that the South Jersey arts organizations are radically underfunded. I don't see that to be true, right? There's 27% of the population lives in South Jersey. 27% of the Arts Council funding goes to South Jersey, which actually should be brought up. And I think the Arts Council should be commended at the incredible job they've done, which is a very difficult job, which is making sure that dollars are spent regionally in a way that is equitable. And these numbers are just shockingly close. South Jersey is literally to the percentage point. Central New Jersey and North Jersey are within a couple percentage points of each other. That's just a tremendous job the Arts Council's done. But yeah, and again, going back to population, again, looking at the difference between What's interesting, the population between South Jersey and Central Jersey is actually closer than the population between Central Jersey and North Jersey. So it's just it was a very interesting dynamic when we analyzed the data. And again, I thought there was some myth busting to be done there. So I wanted to take an opportunity to put that chart up there. We are releasing all of this, as I mentioned, in October. Because October has been designated Discover Jersey Arts Month. We received the gubernatorial proclamation literally yesterday. And that's when this data dashboard will be updated with the new branding to do it in coinciding with Discover Jersey Arts Month in October. So those statistics you saw will be published. The statewide statistics will be up there. It will also be broken down on a county level. So you can see at your county, how many jobs are supported, what does the attendance look like, how much Arts Council money have been invested in that county, what's the population of that county look like, how many jobs are being supported, all of that data, in addition to more data as well. This is not everything that's in the dashboard, but these are some of the high level breakdowns. And again, all of that will be released next month at artpridenj.org/public value. Any questions at all about this data? Where this data comes from? So we compile it by getting Arts Council final report data from the council. We get the population data from the US Census, and we compile multiple data points that we pull in, and we use the Arts and Economic Prosperity 6 calculator that's been provided by our friends at Americans for the Arts, and we're able to use that tool to calculate these other data points. So AIM, I think AIM is great timing because we heard Wilson talk a lot about data this morning and how AIM sort of piggybacks on that. So what is it? AIM is a community patron database of qualified cultural consumers. It's contributed to by the participating organizations across New Jersey that take part in the program. This year in 2025, there were 47 organizations currently participating from across the state. Some are large, some are mid-size, some are small. There's producing and presenting, there's visual. It's a pretty good cross sector of the industry. And there are nearly 2 million unique households in that database. So it's a large database. What you can do with that data, there's so much you can do with it. I certainly, we do entire workshops just on AIM. I'm not going to get into all of that, but I wanted to touch on a few points. So you can pull data on your own consumers. I did this particular data run on the community at large, and you can do generational data. So you can see here, like what percentage of a population, and you can do this for your own organization, are baby boomers or Gen Xers, who are from the silent generation or Gen Zs. You see the chart is broken down there. What's interesting to me, who looks at this data a lot over the years, is we're definitely seeing the Gen X audience grow. Baby boomer audience is starting to shrink a little bit. And we are seeing some growth in the millennial and Gen Z areas as well. But the Gen X area is the area that's really growing the fastest. You can also pull another data point. I think these are not all of them. Believe me, there are so many. But presence of children is what I often look at too, because I think that's an interesting data point. You can see here it's pretty evenly split. In this case, roughly 51% have no children, 49% do. So it's pretty even split. Why would that be important to you? It depends. Depends on your programming, depends on what you offer. You can actually break this data point down by age of children in the household. So if you do children's programming, if you do camps, you can look at your audience and know better, well, what percentage of my audience actually even has kids in this age group? If you're seeing growth in your camps, you might see a growth there. If you're seeing that your camps are starting to decline, you can look at your data and say, well, no wonder we don't have as many people with children that age in our database. So of course our camp's getting smaller, or I can target my data that way more. So this is, again, depending on what your programming is, you'll find the data points that work for you. Another really interesting one for me as sort of a data nerd is looking at education level. So over the last decade plus, this number has definitely moved. So previously, one of the myth busting that we used to talk about a lot was that arts were driven more by education level than by income. However, we've seen significant growth in the amount of arts consumers that we have in New Jersey, which is the gray area, which is those whose highest level of education is high school. When you look down at the data points, you see the red is undergraduate degree, the green is a grad school or above. So that idea of education being the largest driver, now you can interpret that any way you want to, and I interpret as we're doing a better job of attracting a more diverse audience, and we're removing some of those negative stigmas that went with the arts in previous decades. But it is an interesting data point to look at. However, you can look at the downside to that, and that is that the arts are just getting more expensive as everything's getting more expensive. This is another chart that's moved a lot, and this is where an instance where I did a side by side of 2025 DJ subscribers versus the community at large. And you can do this with any data point with your own organization, see how you compare with the field. This data point shows that incomes less than 65,000 a year is where the bottom just drops off. That's this. I don't know if you see my cursor. That's this area here. That used to stretch out much longer in decades past. So that kind of combination of financial pressures is also putting a strain on households who want to attend events, but maybe at this point it's cost prohibitive. And all of this gets back to the evolution of a patron. If you've been in the AIM sessions that we've done over the years, and TRG, who are partners in their program, talk about this a lot. Actually, this is their slide that I'm borrowing. It's the right person with the right message at the right time. So how do you get prospects to become ticket buyers? How do you get ticket buyers to become repeat ticket buyers? How do you get repeat ticket buyers to become subscribers? How do you get them to maybe become donors? That's the evolution, and it doesn't start at the top of the pyramid. It typically starts at the bottom and you work your way up. But knowing more about who your patrons are allows you to be better with your messaging to them to move them up the ladder. So again, can you subscribe to AIM? Yes. The next open subscription window will be coming in November, and that will be for AIM 2026. AIM 2026 starts February 1 and ends January 31. So if you have a current subscription to AIM, it is active till January 31st. If you do nothing, it renews. You'll be getting your renewal messages saying if you want to renew, there's nothing you need to do. You're just going to roll over into the next year. If for some reason you want to opt out, you certainly have that opportunity. Or if you want to join, this is the best time of year really to join. The rates are currently, as you see here, I'm not going to read them off. It's based on organizational budget size and your membership status with ArtPride. I will say that these rates were cut in half when the pandemic hit. All these rates were double this prior to the pandemic. We have left them there for 5 years now. There is a potential that the rates may be going up somewhat for 26, just because costs are going up everywhere. We are not going to be automatically returning to pre-pandemic rates. That's not what we're saying. But you may see a slight increase in rates for 2026. We haven't set them yet. We're trying not to do that. But financial pressures are what they are in us as well. So you may see a slight price increase for 26. Lastly, I wanted to touch on a recent member survey. So those of you, you may have filled this out, or somebody else in your organization may have filled it out. But we surveyed the members. We have a tremendous amount of data that came back to us, which we're looking through and reading through and analyzing. It's pages and pages of data we got back. But I'm just going to touch on two interesting points. So when it comes to Discover Jersey Arts, it was very heartening to hear that 91% of the respondents find this program either very important or important, where only 9% did not find the value. So 91% is a great number. We're really happy about that. And when it comes to the kind of research we do and the data and public value data we do through AIM and Jersey Arts Impact, numbers even better. It's 94% of the industry value that versus 6% who don't find it valuable. So it tells us that we're in the right direction with the things that we're doing. Again, there's a lot more underneath that. This is by far nowhere near a comprehensive look, but since these are two things we were touching on today, I wanted to pull that from the member survey and share that with you all today. So get involved is what I'll say. There's lots of ways you can do that. If you haven't already, if your organization's not already a member of ArtPride, join ArtPride. Try to attend our professional development events and our webinars as much as you can. If you don't have a My Jersey Arts account, I strongly encourage you. It's free. Sign up for it. Use your personal email, not your work email. This is your consumer relationship with us. You'll get and you'll see all the information we're sharing best if you're just seeing it the way a consumer sees it. So I definitely strongly encourage you to go to jerseyarts.com and click on that sign up page. Um, Let us know about your events for a seasonal campaign. We kind of can't feature your event if we have no idea what's going on. So log into your My ArtPride portal, click on that. Again, right now it's the Winter Holidays Guide. It couldn't be simpler. It's drop up to 5 links and attach 5 images. It should take you, if it takes you more than 90 seconds, you're doing it wrong. Submit e-savers discounts. Again, for those 48,000 plus consumers of ours that get information from us, those discounts are obviously highlighted for them. They are very interested in them. They're a very popular feature that we have. And anecdotally, we've heard when groups submit the discounts, they certainly get the feedback from it. Pitch a story. Let us know about the events that you're doing. Again, we're not just looking for a link there. We want to know what about your event makes it really interesting or very unique for us to assign a reporter to cover it for us. So definitely pitch us your stories. We get a lot of great pitches. A lot of our stories come through pitches. Again, as I'll say it again, make sure your organization's contacts are updated and subscribe to AIM. It's a really powerful tool. I mean, Wilson was talking about how they can digitally use that data to help find new potential consumers for you. The more data you know about who's already coming to your organization, the better you can target that data through digital. And we're able to supply so much data that it can be very beneficial to you. Our next meeting is coming up. We have an AIM virtual summit. So this is for organizations that have AIM subscriptions, or you can certainly attend it if you're AIM curious and you want to just sort of hear a little bit more about it. I will tell you that there are new AI tools in AIM that are beginning to roll out to make AIM an even more useful tool. They're going to talk a little bit about that at the AIM summit on October 9th. That's via Zoom at 2 o'clock. And then in November, our final jam meeting for the year is going to be an in-person meeting, similar to what we did in New Brunswick in May. This is kind of like a half-day event. So 1 to 5, it's going to be a grounds for sculpture. And it's going to have kind of an open space format feel to it. It's not a true open space meeting. They're much longer than what we're doing. But it's going to give it, it's kind of there's no agenda. You're going to come and we're going to talk about what the challenges are you all are seeing day to day when it comes to audience development, audience retention, and then break out into areas where we can vet and talk about them in more detail, some peer-led discussions, and then just really gives us at the end as an industry an idea of what are the shared challenges that we're all facing, and it helps ArtPride craft future messaging, future professional development based on that. So that's what I have for you today. We're right exactly on time at 11:30. If you need to reach me, this is my email address. It's jatkinson@artpridenj.org. Thank you for sticking with us for an hour and a half this morning. I really appreciate it. I know how busy we all are. So I thank you for your time, and I hope you all have a great, wonderful day. Thanks.